Well, good day, viewers. Today we have a garage man's companion. It's got 200,000 kilometers on the clock. 2017 GMC Sierra 2500 HD. Was in a couple of weeks ago and we fixed the left front speed sensor signal. Wires were broken at the connector. And he said today he was driving and it had a reduced power message. Now the check engine light is on and I notice it's stumbling a little bit. Feels like it's dropping out a cylinder. Well, let's scan it and see what codes it has to offer. Sorry for the glare. Maybe I'll try and move into the shade here. So let's do a code scan. See what's going on. Oh no. Misfire detected, cylinder 7 and ignition injection timing. And of course the anti-lock brakes is disabled because of the powertrain control module indicated a traction control symptom. Well, he hasn't just bought fuel. In fact, said he was on his way to buy fuel. Okay, let's look at, is it finished scanning? No, I'll wait till it's finished scanning. Okay, so we're inside the shop out of the glare. Got a P021A. Cylinder 7 injection timing fault and a P0300 misfire. And the anti-lock brakes is disabled because of the PCM codes. Same codes in the glow plug control module. And OBD2 shows cylinder 7 injection timing. Let's look at the engine and look at data. I can feel it stumbling intermittently. Engine speed. Misfire data. Too many data lists. Cylinder 2, 4, 3, and 5. And 7 is 23,880 misfires. Let's save this data list. It shows currently missing on cylinder 7 and 1, but a lot of history counts on cylinder 7. Well, I wonder what's common to cause that besides an injector. I'm going to look up some information. So here are the conditions necessary for setting the P021A. The time to build up sufficient current to open the injector is below or above a predetermined threshold. Actions taken. Type A codes means they set on the first occurrence. Conditions for clearing. Verify a whole bunch of other codes are not present. We have a P0300, but that's the only thing. And that one doesn't listed there. If operate the vehicle within the conditions for running, you may also operate the vehicle with the conditions that you observe from the freeze frame failure records. Well, it's missing right now. If DTC returns, refer to circuit system testing. Ignition off, disconnect the appropriate electrical connector Q17 fuel injector. Ignition on, vehicle in service mode. Test for 4.5 to 6.5 volts between the test points. control circuit terminal 2 and ground. With less than 4.5 volts, ignition vehicle off, disconnect electrical harness at the engine controller, test for infinite resistance. Alright, well, we got to do some investigating. First of all and foremost, we have to figure out which cylinder is number 7. Of course, number 7 has got to be on the back at the passenger side. Basically the opposite of a small block Chevy. 1357 down the passenger side, 2468 down the driver's side. Okay, maybe I'll remember that next time. 1278 4563. Well, we're going to have a look at the injector firing, see if it's counted any more misfires. Yeah, 138 currently misfiring. Let's see if we clear the codes. That should result in misfire counters clearing. Yeah. Well, we'll do some electrical tests on that injector if we can get to it. So I'm having a look at the fuel injector data, and the injector is 135 till 1.2 to 1.3 milliseconds, but injector 7 appears to be shut off now. Injector 7 injection timing is 7 degrees. Four, 6, 1, 3, 5, 7 not run, or they keep switching from not run to okay. I'm going to see what happens when we shut it off and restart it. Let's look at number 1 and number. That's odd, it didn't even make an attempt to try to control it. So I had a quick look at access to the injector wiring on basically either side of the engine. It's next to impossible without taking half a dozen things apart. So I think we're going to access the connector X2 at the ECM. I would assume that's the middle one, but assumptions can be wrong. And measure continuity through the injector. Pins 2 and 6 it looks like. I printed off the schematic and compare it to the other ones. Okay. Yeah, pin 2 and 6 is injector 7, 11 and 15 is injector 5, 9, 13, 4 and 8. Okay, let's figure out which one is a connector X2. So the ECM is now referred to as a K20 controller, and it's connector X2, but there's a number of different RPO codes. This one is an L5P, and I decoded that on the Comp9 website, L5P, entering the VIN. Okay, back to here, L5P. So this is the connector view. Maybe it'll tell me what color it is. Black. I would assume there's 3 connectors on the ECM, and I would assume it's the middle one. This one's 96 possible pins, and it was pin 6 and 2. Direct fuel injector supply circuit 7, direct fuel injector high voltage control circuit 7. So I still don't know which connector it is. So there are 3 connectors on the ECM, and one would assume that X2 is the middle one, but I can't tell. And all the harnesses run in the same general direction. But I noticed something about this connector here. It's not locked. I don't know why it's not locked. You can't undo it because it hits the power steering pump. Well, I'm going to take that off and see what it looks like. Wow, what a pain in the ass. Well, the middle connector is in fact black. The front one is blue, and I can't get this one off because the latch is broken, and I got to push down on these tabs. But that's, you get fine sand in there and these latches won't move. I had to spray penetrating fluid and blow it off, and there's still sand in there. Wow. They could have put this computer up here higher in the engine bay, made it more accessible, but no, thank you, GM. So I couldn't get this connector unlatched because the latch is broken, and I pushed the slides down, but it still doesn't release, and there's no frickin' room. So I took the left side battery tray, and the ECU mount out. Now there's 2 bolts going down from the top here, and one from the bottom that you could reach from underneath up inside the inner fender. I contemplated taking the inner fender skirt out, but I don't think that's going to help. The wiring harness runs underneath the power steering lines here, which look like they've been recently changed, but I can't get this connector off. Now I think X2 is the second one, but this connector needs to be repaired either way. So the latch is supposed to slide up these 2 locks so that they come out of the actual case to release the terminals. I pushed it from the top. I'm going to try pushing them back from this side. Well, that was painful. I finally got it off. Doesn't matter, the lock pins are broken. See these pins here? These slides are supposed to slide down and release with that lever action. This here. But when it's full of sand, it doesn't want to move and they break. So this is black, and this is blue. Now which one's X2? You would assume the middle one's X2, but I don't think so. Let's see how many terminals are in this. 96 and 89. I think that's 89. 96. So I think this is X2. The one somebody's been there before and played with this thing. So I pulled the harness out from underneath the power steering lines, and we're going to identify the pins on here based on the wire colors as well. There is X2, 96 pins, as you can see. And this is looking into the connector like this, but flip it around, turn it over 180 degrees. So we're going after pins 2 and 6. 2 and 6. So it looks like these bigger pins down here are the injector controls. So that would be, turn this around the other way. Well, I'll figure out which 2 pins it is. Pins 2, so pins 2 and 6, this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So these 2 here, which I am pinned into right now, 2 and 6, and I'm reading 25.6 ohms. If I move it to pin 1 and 5, That's injector number 6, and it reads 0.79. So this thing needs an injector, or it could be a wiring problem on the way to the injector. 25 ohms. Let's try the next pair. .79. 0.79. Starting to see a pattern. So those are the injector connectors. I would imagine this one is another cylinder. That one's 0.84. That one's 0.79. 0.79. 0.73. And back to the offensive cylinder, 2 and 6, 37 ohms. Let's try wiggling the harness. Uh-oh, it just went open when I wiggled the harness. Well, maybe we're on to something. The scale, and I'm wiggling the harness right on top of the right valve cover here. And you can see it's going all over the place. I'm moving the harness like so. Well, let's open that harness and have a exploratory. So I got the harness opened up here, and it's this yellow and white pair. They're a twisted pair, and right now it's sitting at 143 ohms. Now it's not changing. Damn. Well, I'll keep looking. Well, I've been struggling to find this problem. It's sitting at 420 ohms right now, 0.42K. And I've wiggled and moved the wire, manipulated this wire, and it's the yellow, green, and white pair. And now that I've untaped the harness, it just dropped to 0.29. But it'll change all by itself just sitting here. So I'm starting to wonder if it was just coincidental that moving the harness made a difference, although it sure seemed to make a difference. And I can't find anything wrong in the harness. You'd think if it was the wiring, it would change. Now it's 0.18. I can change the range now to 400 ohms. That's 150. Wiggling the harness on top of the engine where it's tie wrapped down. Okay, well, I'm gonna keep looking. So there it's jumping all over and I'm not moving anything. Now it's stabilized at 290 ohms. There, it just went over 400 ohms. Now it's back to 377. I'm not moving anything. I'm not moving the harness. I'm not wiggling any of the wires. Oh boy. Well, to access the injectors, they got noise insulation covers over top. They got the EGR valve on this side. Took out the inner fender skirt, which was a pain in the ass because they got these T15 screws all the way around, and one of them broke 2 of my bits. So the injectors are underneath that silencer, that cover, which is behind this exhaust bullshit. Just frickin' ugly. So I got longer jumper leads on this thing now, reading the resistance, and I got the cover pushed up out of the way. There's the injector there, and that connection, if I wiggle that connection, as you can see, Like right now it's 0.85, which is in spec, but it goes out of range. So that connection is bad. Now, is it the terminals in the injector or the wiring harness? You would have thought they would have fixed this problem by now. All I'm doing is moving this connector. Well, let's see if I can unplug this connector and look at it. So I got the connector off. What I'm going to do is purposely short it with a jumper and then wiggle the connections to see if the problem is inside the connector, in the wiring harness here, or in the terminals on the injector. So I've got it jumpered with a inline circuit breaker. I'm wiggling the connections and there's no change. That's what I figured. It's the oh, look at that. Well, we're going to change that pigtail. Seems like if I wiggle the connections just the right way, there. So I'm going to see if I can find that pigtail. Well, the local aftermarket parts supplier doesn't have that connector in stock. It fits a lot of different applications. Here it's called a vehicle speed sensor connector. It looks like ignition coil connector for a Dodge. Injector connector for a Chrysler product. I'm going to check with the dealer tomorrow to see if they have one. $65 for aftermarket, $91 retail. Seems a bit pricey unless they're gold-plated terminals. Let's see, I do have an OE part number. 1358023. 1358023. Well, we'll see what we find out tomorrow. Well, I'm not convinced that that's the right connector. That looks like a gasoline fuel injector connector. Let's just see what... Well, they didn't put a 6.6 in a Colorado. It says that's the right connector, but it certainly doesn't look right. I've got one here that looks very similar. That looks like this one here. Let's turn it this way. Yeah, and that's not the right connector. So you can see the end of this connector is definitely unique. So I'll try the dealer tomorrow. So this is right out of the service information. It's an L5P 6.6 Duramax, part number 19284055715. Actually, the service connector is 192998882, but that's what it looks like. Yeah, that's what it looks like. 192998882.